There's a variety of allium plants that I want to show you today, but with the focus on this one onion that you probably haven't heard of, but if you're from parts of Asia, you probably know what I'm talking about. This is the Rakkyo onions. I believe that's what you call it in Japanese. In Chinese, it's called Q Tao or Gukyu in Vietnamese. It's quite popular, and we use this as like a more like pickling in vinegar, chili, and sugar. And it has a really nice crunch and a more mild onion flavor. So it's just so good pickling, and we have it as a side dish with everything else that we eat, especially during Lunar New Year. The best part about growing this type of onion is that it does not require a cold period to germinate. You know, like our onions, usually we'd put the seeds in the ground in the winter, so it goes through this cold period to get them to sprout, or living in a more warm climate and want to grow regular garlic, we have to put them in the refrigerator to go through that cold period to stratify it. But this type of onion does not require any of that. It is so easy to just pop it in the soil. They just love full sun, well-drained soil, but the soil should stay moist for them. But yeah, you can grow them from seed or divide them in bulbs just like you would with garlic. If you live in a warm climate, you can actually grow them twice a year, so that's pretty cool. You grow them at an even smaller space than regular onions would require. So they're really great as container plants. Since Rakkyo onions is still not very popular in the US, I thought I would give you guys a close-up of what it looks like and talk more about it. Also compare it with the different types of like the green onions or scallions, leeks, onions, garlic, chives, you know, all that sort of plants. It took me quite a while to finally find the right plant to grow. I've been wanting and craving to pickle my own because usually they sell them in the jars, but I think there's like some sort of preservatives in there. Anyway, it's just so cool to be able to pickle, and hopefully I get to try even fermenting them. Let's get a close-up and show you what this plant actually looks like. The leaves are actually a triangular shape, almost like a papyrus, very sharply angled. Even with a single plant, you'll start seeing them bunch up. So when I grew out Japanese bunching onions, I thought that could be it because I saw pictures, and the bunching onions has like a tiny little onion bulb on the bottom. So I grew it out, and this is one of the trial and error things, but now I have a Japanese bunching onion. So this is a bunching onion. They also would bunch up, you know, like grow kind of like in clumps, and you can divide them and grow more plants. But the bunching onion tastes and looks pretty similar to scallions or what we call green onions. So it's very like round, just like the ones we buy at the grocery store. These are also Rakkyo onions that I'm just testing out to see what size pots they need, because they grow so well in containers or in the ground. Later we'll pop these out and take a look at the bulbs to see how well they grew under this condition. Here is an onion. This is a regular red onions. I still haven't transplanted them, but it's also a good time to see how well they grow in a tiny pot. But yeah, I just haven't had a chance to plant a lot of my seedlings and plant starts. And it has like a round shaped leaf. Here's a chive. The chives actually flowered, very beautiful. The Rakkyo onion flowers are also purple. Chives have this round, you know, hollowed leaves, just like the onions and the bunching onions. So leeks. Okay, again, shame on me. Haven't transplanted a lot of my plant starts. This is a leek. It has like flat leaves, but the leaves would kind of fold together like this. So this is the garlic chives. Garlic chives may look like they have flat leaves, but if you look carefully, this side of the leaves has a bit of a curve to it. And on the back side, it's got these like angular looking curves. Oh, more like a stop sign. What is that? An octagon. Like every corner as you're rounding off that leaf, it's more like a sharp edges on it. There's a couple more types of onions I'm growing. Let's show you on location. Right over here, my friend, is one of the coolest plants I grow. This is the walking onion. It has a round shaped leaf just like the regular onions, but the coolest thing about this one is that it grows and it does form like a smaller onion bulb on the bottom under the soil. But then as the plant's about to flower, it actually doesn't really produce flowers. The flowers sort of turn into a bulb, like mini onions, you can see. Super, they're just so cool. So they come into these like little like baby onions that are also edible, or you pop these in the ground and you grow more. So the idea of this is that it would get top heavy and then it'll drop and it'll root itself, send up another leaf, and then that leaf would sort of just falls and plants itself around the garden. So it's so cool. But yeah, this onion also has the round leaf. Let's check out one more onion that I'm growing. This one was growing in the front. I thought I'd bring it inside because we're going to harvest them anyway. So I forgot what this one is actually. Did a really bad job with labeling in the past. You can see this one has gone to seed. It's the flowers and the seeds. Tiny little black angular shaped, and this thing is so dry. This pot definitely has lacked a lot of care. Plants in the Allium family generally, I'd say, are pretty resilient and drought tolerant, meaning the leaves will continue to grow, but you know, if you have too long of a dry period, the bulbs are going to compromise, the size is going to compromise. So definitely keep them hydrated. But you see that they grow really well in the sun, in containers, in the ground, especially, of course, in the ground. This is the bunching onions. They originally were in the grow bag that's like hung on the wall, but I wanted to transplant them out. I ended up moving this just against the wall somewhere, and they were getting a lot of shade for about a month. So they started to get really leggy, stretched out, and they really just don't have the energy to stand anymore. But once I cut them back and set them on the sun, they're gonna grow really nicely and straight up again. The red onions and the Rakkyo onions were placed all the way on the top of the shelf, so it was getting full sun, and the other spot that's also higher up on the structure, and that's sort of a really good way for me to make use of the space and a place where they can get completely just in full sun all day long. Let's go ahead and harvest these out. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with this one. I really can't remember what variety these onions are. This is what these ones look like. I thought I had shallots in here. This is probably the green onions from the market, and these are some sort of bulb. Goodness, I thought I had the shallot in here. Oh, here's one. You can see there's a little baby that's pushing. Let's harvest something else. This is the bunching onion. Let's pick one of these out. Oops. Oh, I totally broke it. But you can see how it doesn't, you know, bulk up at all. I guess this is for dinner. This is the regular red onion. Let's just see how big it can grow out of like a 2-inch pot. Obviously the size is compromised, but isn't this cute? Right, all these are Rakkyo onions. I grew them in different places, so we'll dump it out and have a look. Let's start with this one. This one was on the second highest level of the shelf, so it's not the top tier. The top tier is like this one. You can see how it's just standing so strong and straight. And also planted in a few in one container. You really want to separate them a little bit, maybe about, ideally, maybe like 2 to 3 inches apart, so they have room to grow, because each one of them will clump up and yeah, they'll just multiply. So you want to make sure there's enough room for that. This is how small they are. This is one that's also placed right next to this, so it's got like a couple hours of sun, but this one I planted 2 instead of 4 together. So let's take a look at if this one got any bigger. These are definitely rounder. They're so cute. This one was in full sun, but there were like a bunch in here. So let's take a look at, and I think sometimes they didn't get watered because there were just so many on that top tier. Sometimes they kind of dry out a little longer than I'd like them to. Feels firm. Wow. Whoa. You guys gotta see this. It's pushing against the pot. That's what I was feeling. See how many were in here? They're really not that sensitive of plants, so I can kind of tear them apart and repot them later. This is so crazy. They might have also multiplied, but this is how many I shoved into this, and I was growing it in full sun all throughout, from late winter to all of spring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34. Holy cow. 34 in this pot. They definitely have multiplied. I think the max I pushed in here were like 5 to 7 just to see what happens. And each one of those has started to clump up. So it's time to divide. This is so cool. It's like one of those plants that you just buy one time and you don't ever have to buy them again. And even at this size like this, that kind of bulk up like this a little bit, ideally you'd want them to get a little bigger. But I've seen, like, you know, people start pickling them even at like this size. Look how much more it had multiplied being in full sun. Here's another one on the top tier. Whoa, what a difference. I think this one was just one and then it started to multiply. But look at that. This one is splitting, but you can see how they grow like just sort of like in clumps. But there are two that are still, they're splitting. Yeah, this one is splitting. This one is actually about to flower, so I don't think I want to pop this open yet, but stay tuned for the updates and I'll show you what the flowers look like. Oh, this one, you know what? I am feeling it. I am feeling it. Wow, these are beautiful. Look at that. That's so beautiful. Wow. So to start these up, even something this small would be able to grow you something like this. This is so cool. Look how big these got just by growing them in a size pot like this. You can pretty much start these any time of the year in the warmer climates, but somewhere that freezes over, I assume you can just start potting these and putting them in the windowsill. It'll be kind of like a fun winter project and move them outside once it starts getting warm. I still got quite a few more of these sort of pots around. I'll have to look through them. If there's extras that I can offer, I will put them on the website for you guys. Let me wash this one and try it out for you guys. This is what it looks like. It's a really good size one. Let's try the leaf first. I've never had these raw by itself. The flavor really reminds me of a garlic chive. Not really a huge fan of like raw onion. Here we go. It's a little sweet. Has a really good like crispiness to it. I shouldn't have taken one whole bite. I'm sorry. Why am I picking up like a little bit of like a caramelized onion sort of a scent, which I really love, but you know, that's just me. Everyone might taste things and have a little bit of a different experience, but it's like, it's not spicy like a raw onion. It has an onion flavor, but a bit more mild. Yeah, it has like a very faint spiciness to it. You know, like a raw onion, but nothing that strong at all. A mild form of a garlic, onion, and leek all blended in one. And the leaves has a more of a garlic taste. You can totally just slice these or cut them in like halves and throw them in a salad or stir fry these things. Like, how? The leaves do get more fibers at this point, but still edible. Probably to chop them up if you want to add these to your food. But yeah, that is it. If you guys want to grow these along with me, I'll definitely check out to see if I have extras that I can offer to you guys. So be sure to check out my website. Got some plants and seeds for you. Thank you so much for making this far in the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.